Welcome to Heart Speak Podcast, episode 206, Checking Our Reality. Well, hello there, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome and it's good to be back with you. And I hope you're enjoying a little bit of a relaxation before we move into October and November that are full on, a lot of energy happening in those months. And why are we experiencing perhaps a little relaxation is that we have 7 planets that are actually retrograde. And a retrograde planet means that it's time for self-reflection, inner work. And with Virgo as the sun, it will really encourage that self-analysis, that self-reflection, which is good. And we have Mercury in Libra, we have Saturn in Aquarius, we have Mars in Gemini, all mind energies. All of them are ruled by air signs. So what we're watching is our minds are very active, possibly during your dream state especially, but there's a lot going on, a lot of chatter, yes? And so it's a time to not get lost in the chatter, but take out of that chatter what you need for your future growth, for your future nurturance, and let go of the rest. And with 5 planets in mutable signs, there's also a meaning of change in our life, because mutable means change. But this isn't about just leaving something for the sake of leaving. This is about what changes am I willing to make for new growth. So again, that self-reflection is saying, what needs to change? What is not nurturing me? What is no longer giving me pleasure? There's a lot going on in that head of ours. And I would say that don't get too lost in that, because you can find yourself walking down or running down some rabbit hole and not being able to find your way out. Because once your mind gets going, you can start reasoning with yourself rather than feeling. So when you say this isn't nurturing me, you can start to say, yes, but it's the right thing at this time, and I'm helping these other people, and maybe later on, and they need help. And you've moved so far away from what do I need? And what you need isn't selfish, it's actually self-full. So this is a time for really tapping into your heart, tapping into that knowingness, and being very clear that this is a time for great opportunities. Because here we have Neptune in Pisces, conjunct the full moon in Pisces. All of this Piscean energy saying there is a grand opening of opportunities, a grand opening of opportunities into the unlimited potential that waits for us. We could say a grand opening into our imagination. And if you can imagine it, it's happening somewhere. And we all have slightly different imaginations, but following that imagination says it is possible. And that next step is, it may be possible, but is it reality now? And so we need to be just very careful not to get lost in a dream that potentially isn't actually appropriate for this time and space. Now, before I go any further on that, let's just look back at Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, so they're very comfortable together. And Neptune went into Pisces in 2012 and will continue until 2025. And it comes into this position every 160 years. So in 2012, you may know that was quite an important time, there was a birthing of new realities. Again, it was like a prism occurring. And suddenly what we considered there was only one possibility for this earth and for humanity, suddenly many opportunities arose, many portals opened. And it's true to say that a new earth was born, or maybe new earths were born. So new potential of where we may wish to take our energy. And this coincided with an absolute explosion, we could say, in social media, in virtual reality, in gaming. And really what we've seen over this last 10 years is our ability to enter into so many different levels of consciousness and imagination that we could never have imagined. We can tap into each other here through something like Zoom, or we can tap into people and meet people across the world, and we can imagine we're in the same room with them. So our ability to step beyond a framework that says you're here and I'm there has disappeared. The same with virtual reality. I'm there. And this is really what Pisces is offering us. But it is also important for us to recognize just because we can be there doesn't mean we need to be there. So again, it's that checking in. Yes, that is a possibility. Yes, I could imagine that, but is that actually feeding my soul? And so we've also been alert to so many different super beings that are around, an interest in ETs, an interest in metaphysical experiences, tarot, mediumship. I mean, it's just exploded. And we're all understanding that our dream state is so much more alive than it was perhaps before 2012. Sometimes I wake up and I think, was that a dream or is this the dream? So this idea of breaking out of understanding that we live in one world, like a 3D world, and then we sleep in a 4D world and we come back, all of that's exploded. So there's very little boundary now between the one world and another. This is where we talk about the veils thinning, but the veils didn't just thin, they disappeared. And that is what we wanted. We wanted to say, let there be no separation between my three-dimensional world and the oneness, the wholeness. That's Neptune in Pisces. Let me be one with all that is. But in the middle of that, we kind of forgot that there are other levels, astral levels, mental levels, soul levels, spiritual levels, which are part of our aura. And so when we opened ourselves up to the collective unconscious. And that collective unconscious is made up of every experience that has ever been had by humanity. We call it the astral world. So every emotion, every experience, it sits there, just as it does sit in my own body. So if I have a memory of an event and there's some emotion attached to it, literally I'm tapping into my own astral body. Some might say my own Akashic records. Oh, there it is. I can go to that place. There it is. But when we're tapping in to everybody's Akashic records, everybody's astral world, it becomes very confusing. And so with this full moon on the 10th of September, we're literally in this place where our sensitivity, our psychic awareness, our sympathy, our empathy is just being expanded beyond what we've known before. So we have to keep our feet on the ground. Not because I'm saying don't travel there, but what we do know is that sometimes we travel there and we can't get back. We can't find a reality in the now. We've lost ourselves perhaps in another life, another awareness. This is really important because not only in this Neptune Piscean time have we seen an expansion of very exciting consciousness, we've also seen an expansion in drug addiction, other addictions, delusions, schizophrenia, bipolar. And all of those are an aspect of our psyche not knowing how to find a containment, what we might say having good psychic and emotional boundaries. And you might say, well, I don't need those. I'm one with the universe. That's true, but that one with the universe cannot exist easily within that astral world where every story is being told. Every emotion is being told. And it's not easy within every belief system, the mental body, because once again, we're picking up on other people's beliefs and we're saying, that must be my belief. Coming back to that inner knowing in our hearts is, in my mind, the only way to go. And understanding it at the level of resonance. So once again, I just encourage you to go out in nature or even around your own house. What do I resonate with? Do I even understand myself as a tuning fork? Do I resonate with different colors? Do I avoid other colors? Do I resonate with certain tunes? Do I avoid other tunes? Heightening that inner tuning fork, that inner ability to know what resonates with your particular frequency is essential at this time. And however tempting something might be, turning your back on it and say, not for me now, thank you very much. Might be great for you, but not for me. Because this is a time where we could get increasingly confused, I'm sorry to say. As we're going to have next year Saturn moving into Pisces, we are going to be even more Pisceanly affected. Yes, we will see an increase even in mind control, where we're saying, I can think something and it's happened. That's definitely our way forward. That's the way the spirit works. But you have to then say, well, whose mind is controlling me? Where is that thought coming from? And is it a thought that is created from love or fear? So during this full moon time, when you're making a decision to actually clear some of the things out of your life, it's really good to go back through your relationships and look at different events and say, what is holding me in an event that I don't wish to ever now resonate with, is no longer resonating with me? And what do I need to say? Mercury in Libra. And this is a great time to really have reality checks on some of your relationships. That's Libra. And instead of assuming you know that the other person is on the same page as you, ask them. You see, one of the Piscean problems, I will say, is that they merge. We naturally merge with other people, and we merge with their psyche and their emotions, and we read who they are, which makes Pisceans extremely empathic and sensitive and intuitive. But sometimes we don't always read it right. We might read it from our own needs. And so what we often do is we read someone, we create so-called a world for them, we put them in that world, and we think they're happy because that's what will make us happy. And then a few months, years down the road, we find they don't want to be in the world that we created, and we get very upset and very disappointed. Why, I did everything for you to make you happy, and they say, it wasn't my world. So this is a really good time to have the courage to sit with someone and ask them, is the world that we're living together, whether it's a friendship or a partnership or with your children or your work colleagues, are we still on the same page? Do we still have the same focus? Do we have the same goals? Do we have the same intent? And have the courage to hear the truth. And it might hurt. They'll say, well, actually, for the last 3 years, I have thought you a bit crazy, or I haven't been on the same page. It might hurt, but it brings clarity, it brings closure. And that's a time where we can say very honestly, I'm so sorry. I was so caught up in what I thought was good for both of us that I missed checking in with you. And the irony is that Pisceans are very intuitive, but they're often intuitive for others. But they're not always listening to their own heart or listening to what the truth is. So around this full moon, and obviously Neptune in Pisces is going to continue, have that courage to ask the difficult questions. Have the courage to listen. And be prepared to make the changes. I would say especially before this end of this year. So I might say to you, or write a letter you never send to someone if you can't actually speak to them. Say, I'm really sorry. I thought we were on the same page, but I really appreciate what you've done and been with me. But now we're moving in different directions. Or write a letter you never sent yourself. Thank you very much, please, for being there, but we're not actually going to do this anymore. So please have a lovely long holiday. When I give suggestions like this, and these are rituals, and Pisceans are very into ritual, it really is asking you, are you ready to complete? And if I give a suggestion to someone and then I later talk to them and they say, oh, I haven't done that, I know they don't want to complete. So it isn't a failure to remember that they could do this ritual. It's more that they're still getting something out of being in a situation that doesn't resonate with them. So please be honest. What are you getting out of staying in a dysfunctional situation? And often it can be, we can say, oh, well, I need to be in that person's life or whatever. But the truth is, oh my goodness, if I didn't have that dysfunctional life, then I'm nothing. I mean, I don't know who I am. And again, Neptune, full moon in Pisces is saying, have the courage to step into the unknown. Have the courage to step into something that is still mystery, but that your heart is calling. Because that's when we know we are being intuitive. That's when we know we're loving ourselves. And how many of us have had that opportunity to move into a space, what I call the corridor between two worlds. I don't know where I'm going, but I know where I don't want to be anymore. Let your heart guide you, because you're not going to get lost. You're always going to find something new, but not while we're holding on to the old. So this is a fantastic time for releasing, celebrating who you are, how far you've come, and then letting go. And my final thoughts around this come to what have we believed? And I think the other type of reflection we're going to be going through is, what have I believed? What reality have I put my energy into that isn't working for me? And as I'm saying, there has been so much information out there, so much information that we just lose ourselves into. That's what happens on social media. It's unlike having a personal relationship where there's a backwards and forwards. There's just a merging with someone else's truth. So this is a great time to pull back from social media, or pull back and say, is this my reality? I know it might be fun to read other people's stories, but is this actually enhancing me or not? And I think maybe we're all going to start to question what's happened over the last 2 years. Was everything that happened true? And there is a tendency when we are a little lost to kind of grab onto someone else's belief. Oh, if they believe that, I'll believe it because it makes me safe. That's that mass formation psychosis. But there's a time where we can't go any further down someone else's rabbit hole. And the way I like to equate it is that we come onto this earth with somewhat of an amnesia. We can't quite remember why we're here. And it's like being put into one of those old-fashioned diving suits where you've got tiny little vision. You've still got your lifeline, your airline, and you don't know who you are. So someone says, I know the way, and you go, okay, I'll follow you, Piscean. And then you go so far, and now you can feel your lifeline, your air supply is being stretched, but you realize this person has no idea where they're going. And suddenly you realize that even though you may be alone, knowing that you have this connection to your spirit, knowing you have this connection to your higher self through your lifeline is more important than following someone else's beliefs just to feel secure on earth. And I think that's happening. We're learning from so many different directions, things that you might have already known in the last 2 years. Things that happened that we're now hearing from the medical authorities saying, well, actually, we just hoped that these vaccines would work. Well, we really didn't do safety tests on the pregnant women. And now you're saying, actually, these were the people we've been following. They hoped, they prayed, they thought or didn't think. And they allowed their panic or maybe something else to drive them. Why have I been following them? And if you still believe that everything was absolutely perfect in the last year, that's fine with me, as long as that feeds your heart, not you're feeding someone else's belief, or your fear of being alone, or your fear of not knowing. And I just want to say one more thing, which is, as I looked at the astrology chart, this Neptune full moon in Pisces conjunction sits between Saturn in Aquarius, which is creation of structure on a community level. And the other side of it is Chiron in Aries. And when this is happening, what's happening is Chiron is our wound. In Aries, it's our wound of worthlessness. We don't know who we are. We haven't found ourselves. So we're constantly looking to join with other people to find out who we are. But that worthlessness isn't something that other people can heal. We have to find that within ourselves, that sense of worthiness, the I am, which is Aries. And what I saw was, when we're looking at where have we been taken in our imagination, where have we allowed ourselves to go, if we're being taken somewhere by someone else's wound of worthlessness, then this isn't a good place for us. And when I look at Chiron in Aries, there are two different facets of it. One is, if I can help people less worthy than me, then I'll feel better. So we can put all our attention into the poor people or the refugees or the poor. There's a sense of feel more sorry for those people than who you are, because then I can feel better. And there's a lot of that happening. Give them the money, give them that. Don't teach them, of course, how they could become more worthy, more valuable. Just keep feeding them. It's never going to be the way. And the other pattern of Chiron in Aries is to be aggressive, to be angry. Aries is the warrior. And be angry at the people who have made you feel worthiless, which is often a family member, feeling that nobody's actually ever seen you or valued you. I get a sense we're following a number of leaders who look as if they're confident, but really aren't, and who are still trying to prove themselves as they probably did in their childhood. And we're being taken to wars and battles against people, against countries, against the climate, against the earth, whatever, against our bodies, in order for them to feel more worthy. I say that's not our way. I can't be led by someone who isn't dealing with their own wound, who is projecting their wound into the world. Find and heal our own wounds first. Check in with our own reality. Be honoring and honest with who we are. Do our own work first. And when we do that, we realize we don't need to follow someone else. That we can come together, because all of us are leaders, all of us are gurus. And all of us need each other and need to help each other in order to move forward. I leave you with that thought and many blessings now. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the HeartSpeak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Please check out all HeartSpeak episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. HeartSpeak is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Sticher Radio, and now playing on Amazon Music and iHeart Radio. You can also watch the archive podcast on Christine's channel, on YouTube, and now on Rumble. Connect with Christine on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, including her newest Facebook group, The Great Mother Calling. Do share with family, friends, colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of HeartSpeak.